Hello, my name is Vesa Juvonen. I work as a Senior Program Manager in Office 365 Product Group. Within this video, we will have a closer look on how to actually deploy one of our Office 365 patterns and practices examples to the Office 365 and Windows Azure. And we're going to now, within this video, we're going to concentrate on the provisioning Cloud Async sample, which we recently got a AC, Andrew Connells, did as a video, which has been now released in a channel 9, where you can actually go and check the details about the implementation of that particular code. So within this video, we're going to concentrate on the fact that what do we need to do to truly make that code running within the Windows Azure and to be able to expose that as an individual provider-hosted application within the Office 365 tenant. You can find this example and link to these videos from this address. So this is part of the Patterns and Practices guidance. If you go to the github.com/officedev/pnp and then master sample provisioning and cloud sync. Cloud Async is actually the solution name. Let's start by the manual implementation. So manual registration of the app. So this app will not go to the store. This app will be deployed by the administrators or the tenant admins or whoever is actually responsible of that manually using the corporate catalog, the app catalog within the Office 365 tenant. And let's see how that actually works. So first we need to go and register this app to be available within this tenant. So I'm going to go a registration page, which is the AppRec new page underneath my particular tenant. So I'm going to use one of my dev tenants, and in here I'm going to go _layouts15 AppRec new.aspx. And this is where I'm going to register a client ID and a client secret. There's two ways of doing that. You can actually copy that information, or we can click generate and then make sure that we actually use that client ID and the secret within our provider hosted application. And let's give this application a name. Let's call this Async Site Collection Provisioning. And we need to give it an app domain. So at this point, we need to have the app domain where the app will be actually hosted. And this is where we need to actually reference the provider hosted application location within the Windows Azure. So let's create that one. This is one of my Windows Azure tenants. And within the Windows Azure tenant, let's create a new website. And let's call that Vesco Async. Is probably not enough. That's free. We're going to use the free plan. My MSDN Ultimate to host that creator, and that's actually fine. We're gonna do that's actually Western Europe because that's where I'm located currently. And let's create the website, and that will actually create the IIS website to the Windows Azure or the Windows Azure website. And from here we can actually get then the URL which will be used or needed for the registration of the application. Notice that we're using the free mode, which means that you don't have to pay anything for usage of this website. So you can actually have up to 10. Well, this always changes after a while, but currently up to 10 websites which are just running within the Windows Azure and are not causing any costs. So this doesn't mean that you need to pay some extra money. So let's copy that app domain to our registration form, and we can leave the redirection URL URI empty for this particular case. And we can actually register that client ID and a client secret. To oversimplify things, the client ID and a client secret could be considered as a user ID and a password. And that's how actually you can kind of easily understand what they're used for. So now that client ID and secret has been registered, we have the Windows Azure website. It means that we need to actually get our website or provider hosted application to the Windows Azure. So I'm going to go to this website side of this example. So we actually have two different solutions. You could combine them as well, but in this particular case, it's a provider hosted application, which we want to deploy to the Windows Azure. So we're not using the developer site collection or burst because we're kind of thinking of using this in a real life production way. It's a typical provider hosted application. It's implemented as a Windows form, ASP.NET form application. It could be an MVC, whatever is actually needed. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just right click on the application project and click publish. And that's when the Visual Studio is asking the profile to actually, the profile to deploy this information to the Windows Azure. And again, we have two different options to do this. We're able to connect to the Azure sites, or we are able to import a publishing profile. Let's actually move to the Windows Azure. So I'm going to actually drag and drop my Windows Azure back here. I'm going to click that website. So I'm opening up the website. And what I need to do is just download the publishing profile information. And this is just a definitional connection information which is relevant for this particular site. So this is going to help me or the Visual Studio to understand how do we actually get the site in. So it's going to be Vesco Async Azure websites.publishing settings. Let's do save. And that's now saved to my desktop. So we can actually call in the Visual Studio and say, well, what is my publishing profile? I'm going to just double check that I'm actually taking the latest one. I've been doing this demo quite a few times. And I'm importing that. Then it's asking me the client ID and a secret. So what will be the client ID and secret whenever we deploy a newer version of this app to the Windows Azure and when we publish the information. And this is where we can actually copy the information from the page. So what I did just quickly was that I took the client ID and client secret from the registration page, so I'm able to use those later on with this particular application. So this is precisely the same information what actually in here we got from the apprec new, when essentially we're copying the client ID and a secret to that Visual Studio project. And then we click Finish. Now we are essentially good to go to deploy the web project. There's two things what we need to make sure. So let's actually expand our project. We want to make sure that these additional assemblies, and in this case it's actually those additional assemblies called Microsoft Identity Model, Microsoft Identity Model Extensions, Microsoft SharePoint Client, Microsoft SharePoint Client Runtime, are marked to be copy local. And I'm going to zoom here as well. So they have to be marked to be copy local, so they will be deployed to the Windows Azure website as part of the publishing of that application. So when that's true, and I'm going to just double check that everything is copy local true, that is correct. So that's actually everything has to copy local true. I'm just able to do a deploy a web project. And I could do a preview, but at this point I actually know that it's going to be successful. So what will happen is that the Visual Studio will now use the publishing profile which I downloaded to connect to the Windows Azure, and it's going to deploy this website to the Windows Azure. Now the key point is that the whole publishing profile thingy and downloading that from the Windows Azure, that's a one-time thing. From this moment forward, whenever there's an update, we just click a update or publish the new version, and it will be automatically then the latest version will be then automatically added to the Windows Azure. So this doesn't really, it's a one-time thing to do additional steps, and then the upcoming steps or upcoming updates can be easily applied. Here we go. Now we have deployed the Windows Azure website to the Windows Azure, and one thing what we might actually want to do at this time is that if we go to the Windows Azure, there has been kind of the Visual Studio tooling, and especially when you do team development, somebody might actually, as part of the development time or debugging time, somebody might change the client ID and the secret within the web config of the provider hosted application. And that actually might cause you challenges, because right now we have registered the ID and a secret. If somebody goes and changes that, those won't be working against the tenant. But we can tackle that by heading to the Configure tab. And within the Configure tab, if we scroll slightly down, we're able to actually set those settings in here. So we have the app settings, and we're able to apply app settings within Windows Azure UI. So regardless what we actually have in the web config, or if somebody goes and updates web config information, just double checking that the entries are not actually the same right now. Regardless of that, we're able to make sure that whenever it's deployed in the Windows Azure, it's going to use the right client ID and the right client secret. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy the client ID key, move to the Windows Azure, paste it in, and then I'm going to copy the client secret key and move to the Windows Azure and paste it in. Then I'm going to go and make sure that I use the registered client ID and the secret, which will be then matching the app file as well. Good, and then let's set the secret for that one as well. There we go. And what we need to do, remember to do, is then to save the changes. At this point, it really doesn't matter what we have actually in the web config of the provider hosted application deployed to the cloud. These settings within the Windows Azure UI will override whatever you actually have in the web config, which is good because it will make sure that they are matching properly. Then getting this provider hosted actually available within the SharePoint, within the Office 365 is relatively easy. So I'm going to right click the Publishing Cloud Async, and I'm going to do Publish and Package App. It's going to give me, ask me what is the URL, what is the entry point to my provider hosted application. I need to remember to put that one as an HTTPS because that's the real URL for the site which we just created within the Windows Azure. And then I need to double check again that the client ID is matching. So this will be part of the app file which we will be deploying to the Office 365. So I'm going to check that from the notepad. 471, that's matching. Okay, good. And I'm going to click Finish. At this point, the Visual Studio will actually open me up a file explorer, and there's my app waiting to be deployed in the Office 365. And let's do that side there as well. So let's go to the Office 365. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to my app catalog. So I have created a site collection within my Office 365 tenant, which is an app catalog tenant. App catalog site collection, and in here I can upload then my SharePoint apps. So I'm going to go to apps to SharePoint, and I'm going to then upload a newer version of the app, or whatever the app file is, what I want to upload. Let's do browse, and let's actually open up that URL or the file location. I'm going to go and upload the app file in. So let's click OK, and that's going to be uploaded then to the Office 365. It will have the same client ID, which is now in the provider hosted application in the Windows Azure, which will be registered to the Office 365 tenant. Clicking OK, that has been uploaded, which means that it's available for the end users to actually add. I can go to the edit page or edit properties, and I can add some additional context if needed for this particular app, like the description or bigger description, icon URL, image URL, and whatever is needed, if needed. One kind of a neat thing, just a reminder, is that we have the enabled. So like in this case, this is a site collection creation app. You probably don't want to have multiple instances cross your tenant of this one. You're just going to go now and create one instance, and after that you can go here and disable it. It means that the app is no longer visible for the end users to add, but all of the existing instances will still work. That's a key point on that one. So let's go now to one of the site collections. I'm going to go, for example, let's go sites and team. And this should be just clean out of the box theme site, just clean for this particular demo, just adding how it looks like and how we're actually adding the stuff in. This could be your intranet, this could be your root site of the tenant, this could be wherever. Because now when we go to the site contents, in the site contents, if we click and add an app, because we uploaded the app file into the app catalog, we're able to see that new app file, which is the Provisioning Cloud Async, available. I'm going to add that one to this site collection, or this site to be precise. It is asking high permissions because it's used for provisioning site collections. Well, technically this particular part isn't used for the site collection provisioning, but I'm going to explain that slightly later. In the overall big picture, we are provisioning site collections, so that's the reason why it's asking pretty high permissions. Let's click Trusted, which at the same time means that the person who's installing that has to have a high permissions within this tenant. And now I can actually click the application, and everything has been configured properly. The application is opening and it's rendering the page, and we're seeing the nice UI to fill the request on the site collection. So this particular UI is relatively simple. I can select team, community, blog, or wiki. I could just as well add a team 1, 2, 3 and different options here. I'm going to add a team site and a team. Let's give it a name like team. Let's be really team cloud, and let's do demo cloud as the URL. Give it an email to notify when the request has been processed. This could be a people picker, this could be whatever is needed to actually get that. This particular demo doesn't actually send an email, but it's showing the information and showing how we can actually collect the metadata. Obviously, it's up to you what do you need to collect and what do you need to actually set or get as part of the site collection creation. A simplified demo just to concentrate on the site collection creation. Give it a description, really doesn't matter. Let's click create. This is an async process. And what I mean with that one, right now, the process has not actually started. Well, from a logical perspective, the process of site collection creation has started. We have stored the request to actually start creation of the site collection. But nothing is at the moment processing that request. What we wanted to do is within the async model, now the end user can actually again concentrate on working and doing something while the site collection creation is ongoing, and then we will eventually get an email whenever the site collection has been provisioning has been completed. So there's no point kind of waiting for minutes and minutes and hours for the site collection to be created. One of the key points here is also that whenever we are running stuff in a Windows Azure, it actually has a 1-minute timeout, and you can't really adjust that when we do a website and a website processes. So in a 1 minute, you don't actually provision a site collection. But using this async pattern and using web jobs, we can actually make this happen relatively nicely. This particular request is stored in no, let's say, it's not stored in any specific location. It is actually stored within the host web where that app is installed. So the app actually created the list to store those requests. And right now, the list has all of the people who has access to this site has access to this list. It could be a limited list. It could be a not visible or hidden list. But we need to have a location where we're storing this request so that our remote timer job, which is actually responsible of provisioning, is then capable of creating that new site based on the request. And what we stored here is the title, this upcoming site URL to use template. This could be also, for example, just a code. And then the code means, for example, that we provision out-of-the-box theme site, then apply a certain specific additional customization on top of it. But right now it is essentially saying that provision me a out-of-the-box theme site. Requester email, notify email, and the status is requested. So at that point, now whenever there's the remote timer job running, it is actually accessing this list and accessing those items where the status is requested. And let's get that fellow also deployed. So I'm going to move on to my remote timer job. And the remote timer job in this case, it is actually console application. Because the web jobs are actually console application. So this is just a Windows console application, but it's using the admin and the app-only tokens to access that list and the location. We want to double check two things. So I'm going to open up the app config. Just want to double check that we are using the same URLs. So this particular time, this SharePoint.com teams.team. So let's double check that that list is actually located in the same stuff. And luckily we did that because the URL is slightly different. So I'm going to go there and update that property. I could do actually this one from the Windows Azure UI as well, but I'm going to do that now before we deploy. Then we need to set the client ID and client secret. So we do have two options for this one. What you could do right now is actually move to the app registration. Let me show you that. And so we could go to this app in ASPX and we could manually register a client ID and a secret. Yes, client ID and a secret and the right permissions for it, so that we don't need to specifically deploy an app file. That's definitely a valid option, and we're able to then set those permissions using this one. Or we register first a new client ID and a secret using the app.rec.new, and then we set the required permissions in here, because we don't have that app file if it's a console application. In this particular case, though, I'm going to actually use the same ID, the client secret and the client ID, which we used for the website, for the provider-hosted application. So I'm going to actually go here and make sure that I'm using the same client ID, because we actually gave that client ID and a client secret tenant admin rights. So let's make sure that we're using the right user ID and the password in quotes to actually connect there. Seems valid, the URL seems valid, and then we need to get this timer job running somewhere. And it will be a timer job because it's scheduled and it's going to be then running somewhere outside of the SharePoint. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to just actually build. Slightly depending on which SDK you have installed, you might actually have this option of publishing this directly as a Azure web job, which is completely valid option as well. I'm going to do the same stuff now manually, just to demonstrate that, because it slightly depends on which SDK you're using, and it's good to know what actually happens behind of that wizard as well. So we compiled the solution. I'm going to actually go and open File Explorer. I'm going to go and go to the folder which we just compiled. I'm going to delete the old version. And let's double check. Does it seem that it has been just compiled? It actually does. And what I'm going to actually, let's do rebuild just in case. So we get the dates to match, and now the date modified is matched, and the date modified is matched here as well. And what I'm going to do is that I'm actually zipping this release file. The name of the zip really doesn't matter, and I'm going to show you and explain what it actually means. I'm going to copy the URL location, because we're going to actually upload that console application to the Windows Azure, because we're doing this manually. Like I said, you could actually do this using the tooling within the Visual Studio. This is just an alternative option of doing that. So, and you could actually combine the sites, but what I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually keep my provider hosted application as a separate one, and then I'm going to create a new timer job or new site for my web jobs. So let's do a quick create. Let's call this Rescue and Remote Timer Job, which is free. Good. We're using the free option, hosting plan, MSDN Ultimate. That's fine. And it's going to create me the needed website. And inside of the website, when I go there, I have an option of using web jobs. Just as well, like mentioned, I could, in the Visual Studio site, you would again download the publishing profile, and then you would associate that to the Visual Studio project. That's one option. Or I could actually go to the web jobs and then upload the needed job manually in. So let's call this remote timer job, or async site call creation. And let's browse to that location where we had that zip file. There's the release.zip. Let's open that one. And then we have a few different options: run continuously, run on schedule, and run on demand. And now I'm using the free subscription, so I can't actually schedule. If you're using a normal subscription, or I don't want to move to the normal subscription, you can schedule this to be, for example, running in every 5 minutes or in every 20 minutes. And then it's going to be, executed the console application, and then it's going to be a remote timer job which has the scheduling ruling. We can actually have a quick look on the settings. We can do, for example, execute this in every 10 minutes, starting now and ending on whatever time in the future. Or we could do more specific things as well. In every single week, or in a particular schedule on Mondays, and so on. So we can do relatively complex scheduling, and then the scheduler will essentially execute the console application or the web job based on that. As mentioned, though, in this case I'm going to actually not schedule that because I'm using the free option. So I'm going to do run on demand, clicking the OK. And I'm going to create, essentially now it's going to upload the web job into the website, and whenever the uploading has happened, we can actually execute the web job. There's one additional thing which we don't need to remember. So the console application, it works like a timer job. It is creating the site collection, and after that it is actually applying a branding on that site collection, and that execution does take a while. By default, there's a timeout happening within the web jobs. But we can configure that to be slightly longer. By default, I think it's 121 seconds, if I remember correctly. So if the console application execution takes more than 121 seconds and it doesn't indicate anything, that means that it's essentially the Windows Azure will shut down that web job. But we can actually configure this in the configure option again. So if we scroll down in here, if we go to the application settings, we can actually add the necessary command, which is SCM command idle timeout. Let's add that to the app settings, and let's add a 3600, which is a 1 hour. We can pretty much be sure that we get the site collection created within a 1 hour, and we're able to apply the branding definitely within a 1 hour. But then every now and then, if there's traffic and a lot of provisioning happening between multiple tenants, it might actually take a while to get the site collection created. So that's all done. Let's do one more time restart. It probably actually did that already automatically for me, which is fine. I'm going to do dismiss completely my listing. That's good. I'm going to go back on the web jobs tab, just double checking that the upload was successful. And I think it was actually successful. But I just want to double check that that's on demand. It's enabled. We're essentially good to go. And now if the configuration of the client ID and the client secret and the URL mapping is working properly, we can actually click that run once. And that's going to then mark that site collection to be part of, already in the provisioning. So we can see here that the status is now running. So this particular execution is in the running stage. And if we go to the UI side, where is our site requests, if we refresh this one, we're able to see that that particular request for the new site collection has been actually updated, or the status has been updated, put to be in provisioning, and with the latest status stamper, which is saying started provisioning. If it would fail, it would actually create that error message here as well, which is a good practice, so you can more easily debug what's wrong if something goes wrong. And since that's in provisioning status, and it's probably still in provisioning status, it does take a while to actually get stuff provisioned. We can go to the manage site collections and do a refresh here as well, and we should be seeing right now that the web job is actually in the progress of creating that site collection. Or to be precise, the web job is now waiting that site collection to be created so that the web job can actually continue on the following step, which is applying branding, applying content types, applying all of the necessary customization on the newly created site collection. And since this stage actually can take a while, let's actually pause the video. So I'm going to pause the video recording, and we're going to switch back to the status whenever the site collection creation has actually happened. So I'm going to move here, still in provisioning status, and let's click move away, or let's cut a few minutes away from the recording from this moment. Good, let's actually refresh the page to see whenever the things are actually done. The one way of actually seeing when things are executed is also on the web job side. So it's going to actually say the status, is it successful or is it failed? And if there's a failure, you can always go to the logs and actually see more detailed what was the failure of the thing. Right now, if we refresh the page, we're able to see that this provisioning status is ready, which means that the console application won't be processing this line anymore. And if we could go and see what was actually provisioned, we're able to see the new site collection provisioned using the async pattern, and also we could send then the email for the requester that your site collection is now ready and you are the site collection owner. And there we go, we have a custom branding, we have custom settings and a few other things applied automatically within the site collection. So relatively simple stuff and relatively fast thing to actually do. And right now the key point here is that right now if I do any updates on my web project, I can just right click and or essentially do a deploy your web project, and it's going to deploy just those changed files, which are good. And if I'm going to do the same with the console application, so whatever changes I need to do here, if you can associate that to the Windows Azure web publishing profile, you can then deploy that any of the updates available within the console application as part of the provisioning really fast. And all of this setup, what I did, it's a one-time thing. So hopefully that was useful. If you're interested on what does the code actually do, please go to the github.com Office Dev and the samples and provisioning cloud. So if you go to the Office Dev BNP samples, where we have a lot of samples available, and in here provisioning cloud async. Is the example what I showed here. We have a Andrew Connells who did a Office 365, sorry, a Channel 9 video recording. So if you go there, you're able to actually have a look on Andrew explaining what does the code precisely does. But you can always come to the PNP project. If you're not familiar of the GitHub, but you want to have access on the things, you can always go to the PNP front page and just click download the zip. Which is completely valid option to get started. We do recommend to get familiar with the GitHub technology so that you're able to also maybe contribute back, which is really awesome way of showing your gratitude for the other community members who are contributing to this project. But thanks for your time, and hopefully that was useful.